5, Arthur. 5 on September 9th.
Let's just do 5.
Okay, sorry.
Next item, discussion regarding city's policy for community facilities district. Item requested by Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, basically, a CFD, that's another issue, another item that we need to bring this up, bring it to the attention because of what we are feeling right now. We talked about this earlier on item 20. We need to be very careful with CFDs, and I think that we need to be cautious with CFD and bonds. And it seems like there's other ways for to structure or another mechanism to fund the infrastructure. I brought this up because people have read the articles in the newspaper and the market response and all the things that we're going through right now with the attorneys. At one point we need to say, what are we doing about that? We're going to bring it back to the council. We're going to stop all those CFDs. I think maybe commercial is less risky than residential, but I would think right now in the housing industry, CFDs, to eliminate them at this point and to stop them. And this is why I'd like to hear from maybe Ralph and the consultant that we have on these. If you could, stand up and give us pros and cons.
Honorable Mayor and Council, Marilyn Penning is under special tax consultant. CFDs have a purpose of funding, and in this city we've been using it to fund several things. We use it to fund infrastructure that is required. Now, it can be done two ways. We can use the CFD, which takes that infrastructure, puts an ability we can bond for it and build it early. Or it's put in the price of the home as the development impact fees, as one of the council members spoke before. So it's there either way, and we've always made sure the CFDs that I work for you on, that there's no extra charges. In other words, the money's there either way. I buy my house with a CFD, it's $1,000 a year I pay, it covered $10,000 in fees to build infrastructure that was required. Or I spent $10,000 more on my initial price of my home, because either way the infrastructure is necessary. The city manager mentioned in the past the park's not being built. One of the things the CFD can fund is to build those infrastructures before the homes arrive. When you build it, as each home comes through a development impact fee, the problem is you're always, I call it chasing the infrastructure. You don't have enough money to build the infrastructure until all the homes are built, but you need the infrastructure before the first home is built. We joke sometimes that the first house will cost $20 million, the second house much cheaper. So what you use with your CFDs is to get the funds up front to build those infrastructure, and you control the construction of it that way. You don't worry about the developer waiting and building it at the end. You have the money right up front to build it. In the last few years, it's actually saved our homeowners. Nobody likes taxes, not even me, even though that's what I do. What happened was we built some of the infrastructure before prices went up. If you'll remember, in the past 5 years, infrastructure costs have gone up 10% a year. So it means if you built a road 5 years ago, it cost half as much as it cost today to build. Now we're on the other end, things are starting to cost a little cheaper, but cycles brought them down. So your policy procedures were set up that this covered those infrastructure that were required by the home. You also are able to levy a service charge that pays for your police, fire, and some park maintenance and street maintenance for that infrastructure that's built. We always recommend that if the resident builds that improvement, they build the road, or build that park, there should be some money there to help pay for it so the park doesn't go back to seed after a few years. Things infrastructure always come from new development. One of the things that's happened since Prop 13 started, it's lovingly called Welcome Stranger. You cannot tax your regular residents, as you've had in an earlier item, without a full vote, without a lot of changes. Well, the Belarus is set up to help build that infrastructure, to construct those improvements that were required for that home to be built, to do it cost effectively and have the city be in control of those improvements. The Mayor Pro Tem and I talked probably about a year ago about the way it's set up. It's a separate district. It works almost like a enterprise fund. The city isn't responsible for paying the debt on it. The homeowners are. Over time, we noticed that in most times, we notice in good times nobody seems to worry about it. In bad times, people tend to notice the taxes. I've counted up now. I've been through 8 bad times in my career. I'm getting that old. That since I was in youth, I've been through 8 downturns. It's always gone up. We know people a few years from now will be complaining because their houses are getting too high price. Those are the same people that are complaining right now that they're too low. The prices have come down. So in the past, we've used the Belarus to make sure you got the infrastructure you needed. It was done at the most reasonable cost. We used cost of funds came from government funds versus commercial funds. And you've got the service component to maintain those and help fund your public safety costs that the new home creates.
But can you talk more about the bond that the city is doing when it's really actually the city responsibility, the bond, to pay off those bonds, like we have right now with Sheriff Matthews, and can you do CFD without the bond?
Mayor and Council, yes. The bond just gives you the money up front. Not unlike a mortgage. Anybody can buy a house 2 ways. They can wait and save all their money until they have enough money to buy that house full price. Or they can walk in and buy it with a mortgage and pay the mortgage off over the next 30 years. The bond was issued to build the infrastructure using that 30-year stream of income to pay back the bond. If we were to take that 30 years and not bond for it, you'd have revenue every year, but you wouldn't have enough until you got to the end of the 30 years to have enough money to build the infrastructure.
Okay, but how about the risk, for example, if, right now we're facing, the housing fall and all that, and houses are being reassessed, we're getting less, the city getting less property tax because of the value, the value's been gone down. At the time of the project, for example, they issued a bond for $15 million. And there is some risk that some of these taxpayers are not paying, their tax. People are losing homes. Taxpayers don't pay their property tax. We rely on the purchaser in order for us to pay this bond. You say it's a homeowner obligation, right? They're responsible to pay it. But if they don't pay it, we have to pay it. We have to pay it before they pay us.
Mayor and Council, actually, no. This is a debt on the property. So the city technically doesn't pay it. Well, let me walk you through a scenario. I buy a house and I have a Belarus or CFD on my tax. It's $1,000 a year. I decide I don't want to pay it. Just, I'm honoring. I get mean and say, heck, I'm not going to pay my taxes. What would happen is now the bond holders are short $1,000. My $1,000 I didn't pay. It's on my property tax. It now becomes a tax lien, just like not paying any of my other taxes. It isn't based on the value of my home. It's based on that I have a debt of, let's say, $10,000 and I pay $1,000 a year to pay that off. If I don't pay and there's not enough money, first we have a reserve fund set up for 1 full year of paying the bonds. At the same time, we do a rapid collection process. I've never seen anything go to foreclosure. That's when it starts, the tax foreclosure, but the bank is not going to let them take my house for $1,000. I've got to step up and pay the taxes to keep me in there and charge me. Not unlike if I don't pay my insurance policy on my home, the bank will step up and pay it and charge me back for it. So if I don't pay, and if everybody else doesn't pay, we have 1 year of reserve to make those payments.